Hello and welcome. Thank you for being here. My name is Michelle Shelton. I'm a registered dietitian and certified coach. And in this channel, I teach people strategies to achieve a life of health and well-being that are centered in reconnecting with your body wisdom and really beginning to reconnect and trust yourself, trust your body cues as that signal to return to health. And today I'm coming to you from a construction zone. This is my house under remodel, and I wanted to share some thoughts and some reflections around the process of change and some of the things that, as you think about like an external transformation, like as my house is in the process of changing, there's a lot that really mirrors the work and the process of changing internally, right? When we set goals, right, as we want to achieve, for example, that life of health, it usually involves, not usually, it always involves change, right? It involves doing things different to get different results and different outcomes. And it can take work. It does take work. And so I just wanted to share some thoughts that I think really mirror this internal work based on what's happening external in my home today. So as you can see, it's all torn apart. However, this is not where this journey started, right? The journey began with the process of visioning, right? It began with me really thinking through as I would go through the house and I would think, this space would work so much better if this wall was removed, right? It would let in light from over here and light from over there, and just the whole space would now become brighter and lighter. And it would work better if there was a door directly into here, because then we wouldn't need this dark hallway. And it would work better, right, if this closet moved here and this bathroom adjusted here and this became larger and this got moved here, and maybe we just got rid of this entirely, right? That's months and months of just sort of envisioning, sitting in the space and just thinking about the potential. What's the potential that this house holds, right? And how can it become better? How can it serve my life better? To bring in my case, to bring in more light, to bring in more space, and just to support what I want, right? What I want to feel in my home, right? So that visioning process began. And then as I began to really sit with that vision and think, yes, this is something that I want to act on, then there began a process of sort of clearing out, right? And going through closets and knowing that if we are going to remodel the space, we're ultimately going to need to clear everything out. And so what can I clear out that I don't need anymore? What can I get rid of? What's not serving my family anymore? What's not serving the space anymore? What doesn't even belong to me that I need to return to the owner, to the person who it does belong to, right? And just going through and really thinking through what in this space do I keep and what do I let go of? And then that led to where we are now, right? Which is even that deeper work of we've cleared out spaces, we've cleared out closets, and now we start to actually tear down things, right? We bring down walls, we cut new spaces, new doors, right? We're clearing out space to rebuild what we want this space to look like, right? So there's a lot of kind of clearing out, letting go, and even breaking down, right, to create the space. We're now moving into, it's a really exciting phase, is where we are starting to rebuild, right? And when we rebuild, I'll just show you here this space that they're starting to rebuild. When you rebuild, it starts out pretty rough, right? So here we have this new mudroom, right? They're beginning to frame in, and it's still pretty rough. All you've got are studs, a door or hole where the door will go, right? But not even a door there yet, right? But we're starting to put some structure and some form around what this will be in the future. And then they'll come in and do the sheetrock, and then they'll come in and do the trim, and then they'll put in the flooring, and then they'll do the flooring and then the trim, right? And then they'll paint, and then they'll put up decor, right? And then the space will really become that vision that I had, right? The potential that I saw in that space. And as I've been sitting with this process and sitting with this journey that we are in, it really struck me how similar this is to the change and the transformation, right? If you think about, we'll just apply this specifically to health because that's what this channel is really all about. When you are ready to take on a new change in your life, it does always begin, and this is where I begin when I'm working with clients, it begins with the visioning, right? And just that process of asking, what's the potential? What am I feeling called to create in my life, right? It's not about just making my home something that somebody else will like, or that's going to keep up with like the neighbors, what they're doing, right? It's like, what's the potential of this space, right? What's the potential of my life where it is in this moment? And what am I ready to create here? That's your vision, right? And so you sit with that vision, and as you get clarity on what that vision will look like, then begins the deep work, right? Of going through and thinking, what am I holding inside that's not serving me anymore? What am I holding inside that doesn't even belong to me, right? So that might look like, am I holding somebody else's beliefs, right, around what my body should look like or what my body should do? Am I holding somebody else's beliefs around how I should eat versus, really tuning into what feels good to me and what I want, right? And the foods that I know make me feel good, right? Or is it something that somebody else told me I should do? What am I holding on to that is maybe an old story, right? Maybe an old story around, I can't trust myself, or I don't have any self-control, right? These old stories that maybe I can let go of to make space for new stories, right? And new beliefs and new spaces, right? Inside that are maybe centered around that trust and that connection to myself, that connection to my body, and that connection to my feelings, right? To let me now create this space of self-attunement and self-care, right? So we begin to let go of some of those things. And that's something that coaching can really help you do, is to find and discover those things that are ready to be released, that aren't serving you anymore, and that aren't in service of your vision, right? This isn't about changing, right? Or becoming somebody that you're not. It's about letting go of the things that you've picked up along the way that you don't need to carry anymore, or that never belonged to you in the first place. A lot of times we do carry energy or beliefs that really don't belong to us. And this is the invitation to let that go, right? And then we begin that space, that next step of framing, right? We start to put up the framing around that person that we want to become. And this looks like beginning to put in those practices and those rituals, those things that will help us, right, to achieve what we're working towards. So that might look like, right, that beginning to build in a practice of physical activity that's sustainable, right, that is that feels good to you, that works with your body, right, so that you can begin to bring that into your life, and you're framing some structure around that. You're maybe beginning to build a practice of self-attunement and body awareness. You're beginning to build a practice of feeling your hunger and feeling your fullness. You're beginning to build a practice of tuning into your satisfaction and sensing into when you've had enough, right? You're beginning to build a practice of caring for your emotions, right? These are all part of the scaffolding that we start to put up, but notice that it doesn't go up right away, right? You don't put up the wall and it's perfect and beautiful right away. You start with the foundation and the studs and the framing, right? Which is that process of taking those first steps and making that initial early space for that in this new space that you're creating, right? And then you do start to put up the sheetrock, and you start to put up the trim and the paint and the decor, right? That's just that process of consistency, right? Putting up more structure around the spaces that you've started to frame in. And that's just a practice of consistency. And you notice along the way, what are the barriers to consistency, right? What's stopping me from being consistent? Is it too big of a step? Is it the wrong step? Is there space I haven't cleared out yet, right? Is there still something here in the way that's preventing me from putting the sheetrock up or getting this frame really solid? And do we need to do a little bit more work there to clear that out, right? All of that comes in process of time as you begin to put more and more structure and form around these spaces that you're creating. And then over time, soon enough, as you consistently work towards these practices, you have this new beautiful space, this vision, right, that you created in the beginning has now become a reality that you are living into. And so I just wanted to offer that as a very real and tangible way to think about that process of change, right? Sometimes we jump into it too quickly. We want the house to be built right away, and we forget to do the clearing out. Or we jump in too quickly and we haven't really even fully envisioned where we're going. We're just going where we think we're supposed to go, or where somebody else is telling us we should go, without really grounding and centering in our vision and our life and what we are really ready to create and wanting to create, right? Or we just get impatient and we wonder why the house is still really ugly and a mess, right? When we're like, we haven't spent enough time yet to fully create and build the space. Right? Like we're not there yet. This is the phase that we're in. We're in the cleaning out phase. We're in the building the structure phase, right? We're still putting up that sheetrock, right? It's not meant to become perfect in that first step. There needs to be a process of building for it to be done right and for it to be done well, right? So that is the message of transformation that I wanted to share for you in the metaphor of our house remodel. So just maybe think about those things as you begin, as you think about, right, what you want for your life and for your health. And you think about that life of wellness. First of all, what is your vision for yourself? Second of all, what needs to be cleaned out and released? Third, what spaces are you ready to start to build and put some shape around? And what are those early first steps that you can do to begin that process? Right? It starts with the small things, the foundational things, and then how do you build it up and create that consistency around it so that the space begins to build out and become that place of beauty and vision that you have created. So I just, hopefully that's helpful and just gives you some things to think about in terms of, what change looks like and how that might help you, think about your process. Don't forget to hit subscribe for more tips as we go into more detail and more skill around, creating those spaces right inside, doing that work to clear out and to let go, and building the skills that become the framework and the framing around the new vision, right, that you're creating for yourself. So don't forget to click subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for being here.